I want to begin by introducing myself to everybody who doesn't know who I am. My name is Nolan Lebovitz, and I'm the rabbi here at Adat Shalom. And I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to a very special Kabbalat Shabbat and Oneg Shabbat celebration. Once a month, we gather as a community to have a big Kabbalat Shabbat and Shabbat dinner, where I'd like to say that we normally get several hundred people into the social hall, but we do really well getting 100 people usually into the social hall to sit down and have dinner together as a community. This was an opportunity that was brought to us by super fans of the podcast, brought it to my attention, Tracy Shimano, supported by Judy Paz and the entire Paz clan. And I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this kind of innovative programming and supporting it here at this synagogue in this community for all of us. There was an amazing Hasidic leader in Poland who was called the Seer of Lublin. And there's a great story about the Seer of Lublin's death, in which he gave all of the items in his possession to his students. His favorite, most prized student received his tefillin, so that each and every morning they could awaken and wrap themselves in the Torah of the Seer of Lublin. His second most prized student received his tallis, so that he could gather the same tzitzit that the Seer of Lublin used to kiss. And the third and the fourth, each one of them received items of the Seer of Lublin in descending order, until the last student was called. In my mind, it's like Gene Wilder from the Frisco Kid, right? He's called into the office of the attorney of the Seer of Lublin. And it's explained to him that the Seer of Lublin left him a very special gift. It is the Seer's watch. And the student says, a watch, a material possession from the great Chassid that channeled the Kadosh Baruch Hu for our generation. What do I want from a watch? And the attorney says, I don't know, it seems broken to me. And he hands him a watch that looks more like a stopwatch than a watch, and it has no buttons or way to set the time. It looks like a clock's face, except all it does is count down, like a stopwatch counting down to a certain thing that the student doesn't understand. And he asks the attorney for instructions. The attorney says he has no idea about the watch. This was just what was written on the will. And so he walks outside, and the students say, wow, you got the watch. I got the tefillin, but you got the watch. And he says, would you like to trade? Nobody wants to trade. Everybody received the exact gift that the Seer of Lublin wanted them to have. And he starts walking on the street, and nobody knows how to set this device, and it starts counting backwards. And finally, he bumps into one of the friends of the Seer of Lublin, and he says to him on the street, what is it counting down to? Could you just answer my one question? What is it counting down to? And he says, it would count down to every encounter that the Seer of Lublin would have with God. So this man, Gene Wilder, kept walking through the streets and watching the clock count down, and he kept looking, expecting to see, if not God, a representative of God, Elijah the prophet from the Talmud that happens to walk around and bump into Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, something that would be emblematic of this. And he gives up, and he ends up going home. And he walks into his house, and his children run up and give him hugs, and his wife comes out of the living room and says, how was your day? And the clock dings. He thinks to himself, stupid clock, I'm not encountering God. This is everyday occurrence. I meet my wife after I'm studying in Cheder. I meet my children, they ask me how my day was. They sit down and they have dinner. And the next morning he wakes up, and the clock is set again. And he walks out, and he goes to Starbucks in 18th century Poland. And there, is the curmudgeon old man who sits out in front of Starbucks, just like the one who sits out in front of the one on Sepulveda. And the student says to him, "How was your day?" "Good morning." And the man blurts something out that is absolutely unintelligible. And the clock dings, and he goes inside, and he speaks to somebody behind the counter, and the clock dings. And as the man walks through life, every encounter that he has, this clock seems to be going off. So finally, he goes to the prize student, the one who received the tefillin, and he says to him, "I don't understand. I thought I would encounter God, and instead, I encounter all kinds of different people that I see each and every day." Now I feel like we're waiting for some kind of punch like where's the spoon, right? The seer of Lublin would teach stories that would empower us as a Jewish people to see godliness in each and every element of the universe. And that actually was expressed through each and every person that the seer of Lublin would meet, which is how the stories about the seer of Lublin would be passed down from generation to generation to generation. And if you want to know what a Shabbat like this is supposed to encompass, people coming from different walks of life in a city like Los Angeles who have never met one another, and sitting in these pews, looking at an Aron Kodesh filled with the Word of God. What it means is that we're not supposed to just see the Word of God when we look at the Aron Kodesh and we open it and we unravel the scroll and we kiss it. We're supposed to see the Word of God when the service is over, before we all make a mad dash into the other room to get seats. We stop and we turn to the person next to us and we say, "Shabbat Shalom. My name is Gene Wilder. What is yours?" And we get to know our neighbors, because that's our tradition here at Adat Shalom. Before we take around the Torahs and the high holidays, we stop and say hello and ask one another how we're doing and what we can do for one another. And when we do that, when we as Jews embody the principle of Kol Yisrael Aravin Ze Lazeh, all Jews can depend on one another, we will in fact meet the Kadosh Baruch Hu. In that moment, we will be encountering God in this world. Shabbat Shalom.